On Larry King Now, it's Alfonso Ribeiro. You remember your audition for Prince of Bel-Air?
You know, I had known Will before even going for the show, and I went in, and for some reason, this character just connected for me. I knew who this guy was. What's amazing now is you see the people who loved me from yesteryear, and then you get the kids that see me walk through the airport and they want to run up to me, and having a completely different perspective now being in this business 39 years, feels like it's wonderful to see the kids. When you're typecast as an actor, that's the individual, that's the personal journey that you have to go on. That you were so great, we can't see you as anything else, so you don't get to work anymore.
Plus, did you introduce him to his wife?
I mean, technically, I introduced him to both wives. Yeah.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest is a man who wears many hats in the entertainment business, Alfonso Ribeiro. The actor, director, host, dancer, and Broadway star is best known for his role as Carlton Banks on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He's also taken home a Dancing with the Stars trophy, and outside of Hollywood served as a PGA Tour ambassador. He currently hosts America's Funniest Home Videos, which airs Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern on ABC. How did you get that gig?
Well, the America's Funniest Home Videos kind of came to me in an interesting way.
It's been on forever, right?
I mean, we are now in the 29th season of the show, and I joined in the 25th season. And Tom Bergeron was deciding to leave the show, and I had worked with him on Dancing with the Stars. And after it was over on Dancing with the Stars, ABC asked me to come in and talk, and they were like, we constantly keep recreating these stars again, and we let them go to other networks. We'd like to keep you. What is something you would like to do? And there was a poster of Tom with AFV on the wall, and I said, I'd like to do that. And they said, well, Tom is leaving, so we would love you to do that. And so we ended up doing a screen test and all the rest, but ended up getting the gig. And
so you wanted it.
I did want that. It's a show that, for me, makes a lot of sense because I feel like I've got a really wide audience. I don't have a very specific audience, which kind of works perfectly for that show because, it's the number one co-watched show in all of television. Meaning that there are families sitting together. Yeah. There are multiple people together sitting. So you have grandparents sitting with their grandkids and everybody in between.
Do you have a personal funniest?
I have one video that I love the most. It was it won 100,000 2 years ago. And it was two kids on this thing called a slingshot ride, which is an amusement park ride where it shoots you straight up in the air.
Coney Island.
Right. So they have a camera. It's a great ride, but you get some really good emotion out of the kids. And there was an older brother who went on to be with his little brother. And as the ride took off, the big brother is screaming his head off and then passes out. And then he comes to, and he realizes he's still on the ride, and he passes out again. And he comes to again, and he's screaming, and the little brother's like, I'm so sorry, I made you get on this ride with me. And it was just the way that it played out through the video really made me laugh.
Is there a type that never fails to make you laugh?
I like to call it the epic fails, is the category that we call it.
Guy trying to do something.
Try to do something that does not work out, and you end up hurting yourself in the process.
You had a big fan following before this. I mean, obviously you were well known everywhere. How has this affected the career?
It's been pretty cool because there's an entirely new fan base out there for me that didn't exist before. And with the little
kids. Wide
kids,
age span.
I mean, it's like I said, from grandparents to toddlers. I walk through. I always find it as a celebrity, you kind of can see your fan base when you walk through an airport.
Sure.
Because there's everybody in there. And what's amazing now is you see the people who loved me from yesteryear, and then you get the kids that see me walk through the airport and they want to run up to me, and having a completely different perspective now being in this business 39 years, feels like it's wonderful to see the kids.
Another great thing, 25 years ago, wouldn't have had a black host.
Absolutely. It would
how
have been,
times have changed.
It would have been very different, and hopefully we're not sinking back into yesteryear in this society. But definitely, the networks, the producers, Hollywood still continues to see it all with very open eyes.
What's your first love of all the things you do?
It's interesting.
If you had to do only one thing, what would it be?
That's a really hard question. I feel like today it would be hosting, right? I feel like at different times in my career it would be very different. I definitely feel like, acting when I was doing Fresh Prince would have been the thing that I would have chosen to do all my life, which is a very interesting thing for me. And I say this every once in a while, and I try to give people the perspective of my life. And I say, imagine for a second, you did something in your life, then you were so good at it, the world told you you couldn't do it anymore. That's when you're typecast as an actor, that's the individual, that's the personal journey that you have to go on, that you were so great, we can't see you as anything else, so you don't get to work anymore. So there's a piece of me that has a little bit of the anger left in it from that, because I loved what I was doing. I loved the fact that I was able to act and create a character and become that person.
Did you start in theater?
I started on TV, but I was at theater at the same time. I did
Broadway?
I did Broadway. I did the Tap Dance Kid on Broadway, the title character of that show. And I was 12 when I did that, but I had been working since I was 8, so I'd done commercials. I did a PBS TV series in New York, and so I had done stuff before that, but Broadway,
Would you go back to Broadway?
I've because I have little kids now, I feel like I wouldn't. Only because I want to be with them. I want to enjoy this time in their lives, and the stage takes a lot out of you.
When we return, Alfonso Ribeiro on taking his dance skills across the pond. Plus, we'll look back at his time on the legendary sitcom The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That's next on this edition of Larry King Now. Back with the widely talented Alfonso Ribeiro. You made waves across the pond. You recently guest judged Strictly Come Dancing.
Yeah.
In England.
It was fantastic. That's their equivalent of Dancing with the Stars. Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
I had a blast. The panel over there is very different. I mean, even though Bruno Tonioli is who the person I replaced for 1 week, he couldn't go back this last week, so I stepped in.
He's the famous host there.
He's one of the famous judges, but he also works here on the U.S. version. But the judging panel there is very different. There's a very different energy in the U.K. versus America.
How so?
Much more critical. They like to look at the negative more than the positive. And watching the show this season and seeing kind of the difference, everything was about the negativity. It's like what you're doing wrong, what you're not doing right.
Did you not like that?
And I didn't like that. And so what I tried to come in and do was your scores are going to be representative of the dance that you're doing. So that's the negative if it's a bad dance. But I don't need to tell you about all the negative. I need to tell you about the things that you're doing positive. Whether it was your connection to the dance, whether it's a story you're telling, whether it was the technique that you did do correctly, rather than looking at the negative. And I think that change, the fans seem to love it. The producers seem to love it.
Would you go back and do it?
I would go back. I would go back and do it again. I mean, obviously not on a permanent basis, but I would go back and do it. I had a great time.
Would you be a full-time judge on Dancing with the Stars?
Would I? Yes. I feel like, they've got a great group already. There's no need for it unless they wanted to go to a fourth judge. But I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed judging. I enjoyed, kind of trying to do it from a perspective. I think the one thing that all of those shows are lacking is someone on the panel that's been on the floor, that's actually danced, that's actually been judged.
You wonder why they don't
what
have
that feels like. They've done it with the pros, and they've had guest judges that come in who've done the show as contestants. But the fact that none of these shows have a person that might have won or did really well that actually get it from the perspective, delivering a performance at the end of a week, giving it your all, and the pain and the physical and the mental that they go through to actually get to the performance, to just be kind of shot down, I feel like is not always the right thought.
You remember your audition for Prince of Bel-Air?
I do actually. I had known Will before even going for the show, and I went in, and for some reason, this character just connected for me. I knew who this guy was, and when I went in, nobody else is going to do it this way, but I really feel like this is the right way to do it. And I went in and I was sitting there, and because I'd been on TV before, it wasn't like it wasn't just the casting director, it was the producers, and I went in and I read, and I just remember the entire room laughing at every joke that they were supposed to laugh at, and I just left and I felt great.
Did you know it would be a hit?
I would have to say yes, and I'll tell you why I believe that. Because at the same time, I had the option to join the cast of A Different World, which was the Cosby Show spinoff on NBC. And they said, you have to decide whether you want to do this presentation with this rapper named, the Fresh Prince, or join an established show that's already on the air. You'll become part of the cast, and would you rather do that? And I had to make that decision. And I made the decision to go with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air because I really believed that there was something special about him and the show.
I know him pretty well. What is special about Will Smith?
I've always said he's the hardest working man I've ever met. He knows nothing but 1,000%. And he's, especially back then, he was so real and honest. He was an honest performer. There was nothing contrived about him.
Did you introduce him to his wife?
Technically, I introduced him to both wives. I introduced him to Cherie through a friend, and I actually, not until I just saw the Red Table Talk interview where he was going to meet Jada, but technically I was going to set him up to meet both of them, and separately. Not, he ended up meeting Cherie, and then I ended up setting up that date and that whole bit. So
Is he happy with Jada? Is everything good?
I think he is extremely happy. I think he found the right person for him.
Okay, we're in a time of reboots. Could that show come back?
Could it come back? Absolutely. I feel like the core of the show would work. The question ultimately is, and I've said this many a times, that without James Avery, you don't have the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You could have a reboot, you could have a spin-off, but you could never have the Fresh Prince.
How many years was it on?
We only did 6 seasons. It feels a lot more because of syndication, but it was only 6 seasons, but it was a magical 6 seasons.
Do you still do the Carlton dance?
I try not. I get asked pretty much every day of my life. I say it all the time. If I leave my house, someone will ask me to do the dance. It is the bane of my existence. But I recognize what and how it makes people feel. Right, I recognize that people love it, and that it's a part of their lives, and I never want to take that away from them. But it doesn't mean I'm gonna dance.
As Frank Sinatra said, "Not my way again."
Yes.
When we return, we'll talk a little golf with Alfonso Ribeiro, and we'll put him in the "If You Only Knew" hot seat. America's Funniest Home Videos. It airs Sundays at 7 p.m. on ABC. Don't click away. Back with Alfonso Ribeiro, the host of America's Funniest Home Videos. It airs Sundays. It's sort of great hour to be on, 7 o'clock. It's a family hour.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a scratch golfer. Ever want to try the Pro Tour?
Well, I'm also a realist, and I think that there is a much different perception of golf from the amateur standpoint than from the professional standpoint. And if you think about the amount of guys that are playing in Europe and all the other mini tours around the world that are all +5s and +6s that actually still don't make it onto the tour, it's a huge leap from being a scratch golfer to being a guy on tour.
But you played pro-ams where you play with the pros.
Absolutely.
How do you do?
I've played great with them, but there's a But, you know, if you think about the difference between a guy who goes out and he shoots 74, which would be a great score on most occasions, and then you see a pro go out and shoot 65, right? And that's a 9-shot difference. Like, that is mammoth. And when you think about every tournament being 4 rounds and throughout a year, what the difference in terms of strokes, it's huge. It's huge. So very much a realist. You know, I played this year in the pure first tee up at Pebble Beach, and I shot 74. I actually did beat my pro that day straight up. Awesome. Great job. But let's keep it real. I couldn't do that on a daily basis.
What do you make of Tiger's resurgence?
I am in love with it. I feel so happy
too.
for him. I feel happy for the golf world. We were missing him. We were missing the energy and the passion that people have for the game when he plays.
It's amazing.
Yeah, you know, you never know why someone connects to people, but he just did. Yeah. His game, his legend is amazing, and I'm really, really hoping that 2019 is a season for all of us to remember. 2018 already is, you know, with his comeback, but now starting the year,
think he'll win another major?
I do think he'll win another major. I think he definitely has a shot. I think he has a shot this year. The rotation this year really favors his game.
Okay, we play a little game of If You Only Knew. Speaking
Okay.
of games, what's your funniest or strangest fan encounter?
Well, I don't know if it's that funny, but it's definitely strange. I had a situation once where I was somewhere and a guy walked up to me and said, "Hey, you Carlton?" I said, "Well, I play Carlton," and he punched me in the face out of nowhere, right? So now we end up in a fight. And, you know, I've done a lot of training in my life. And so I've got the guy now down on the ground. I've got my knee in his throat, and I'm about to just wail on him. And I'm like, "Why did you hit me?" And he goes, "I was so excited, I didn't know what to do."
Where was this?
This was I don't even, it's so long ago now. It was, you know, at some, just out kind of somewhere, you know, and I just, it was shocking, but it really kind of gave me a look into the window that, like, there are people in their own lives, in their world, that just see the world very differently. And it's probably one of those things where this guy was a guy who would, you know, punch his friends and they would just fight all the time, and it was that kind of world. But he got so excited, he punched me in the face. That was the absolute strangest encounter ever.
Never happened to me.
Yes.
Proudest accomplishment?
Proudest accomplishment. I would probably go back to the tap dance kit. As truly one of my, you know, most proud moments in my career. It was kind of like my big break, right? It was the number one thing that kind of started my real career. I'd been working for 4 years, but to do Broadway and to win the title character of a Broadway show was very special.
Food you can't stomach?
I don't eat any seafood. I have fish. I can't stand fish. The smell of it, the taste, just the thought of it is.
I hate egg. I don't know why I hate eggs.
Yeah, okay. I just, ugh.
What scares you?
What scares me? I'm actually a bit claustrophobic. So the idea of getting stuck in an elevator.
Have you been stuck?
I've never been stuck, but I've imagined it many a times, and I just know that if I ever got stuck in an elevator, I'm getting out of that elevator.
I have some friends who won't go in the elevator. They'll climb 18 stairs.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do it, but like if I know that I'm going a flight or two, just take the stairs. It's easy. Get some exercise in the process.
Best piece of advice you ever got?
I don't know if I could ever really say if there's one thing, but you know, I believe that you have to love what you do in life. That in my career, I've been fortunate enough to have this life and to continue to do 39 years what I'm doing. I love every minute that I get to continue to do what I love to do.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure is golf. You know, I take my kids to school whenever I'm not working, because I know that if I drop them at school, I can then go play golf. So that would be my ultimate guilty pleasure.
Alfonso Ribeiro will answer your questions sent in over social media in our final moments. America's Funniest Home Videos, Sundays, 7 p.m. on ABC. We'll be right back. Back with Alfonso Ribeiro. We have questions from social media, Positive Packs on Twitter. What do you like better, acting or hosting?
Like I said, right now it would be hosting. I enjoy the fact that I get to host and kind of navigate, through an episode of whether it's AFV or I was lucky enough to even host Dancing with the Stars one time, and I'm really enjoying hosting.
The Aaron Cameron on Twitter. What was it like being on Magnum PI, and did you get to touch the white Ferrari?
I loved being on Magnum PI. I would go over to Hawaii. They'd put me up in a great hotel. I was a teenager still at the time, and to hang out in Hawaii for a few weeks was amazing, right? Like it was one of the best jobs. I did get to sit in the Ferrari once, so I was very excited when I became a real fan of Ferraris after that.
Sinatra guest hosted on Magnum. He guested on that show.
He guested on it. That's very cool. I mean, it was a great fun show.
Aaron Jimenez on the Larry King Now blog. Can you tell us about your time like hosting Will Smith's 50th birthday skydiving experience?
Yes, well, it was absolute nuts.
He skydived on his 50th birthday?
So he actually heli bungee jumped out of a helicopter, bungee jump into the Grand Canyon.
Why?
Yes, exactly. Well, he did it. There was a whole YouTube group called Yes Theory that challenged him to do it, and in perfect Will Smith form, he decided he was going to do it. Not just do it, he was going to take it to another level. Raised a ton of money for charity, which was wonderful, but he has this thing about challenging fear. And it was something that he was fearful of. So
what did you do?
I hosted it. So it was a 2-hour-long YouTube live stream. And so I hosted it and,
describe
what was happening, talked with him, talked with Yes Theory.
You didn't jump, though, did you?
I did not jump,
Good
nor
thinking.
would I.
Austin Kelly, is there an episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air that stands out to you?
It's hard for me at this point to say that there's one episode that stands out. I think there are certainly moments that stand out for me. Whether I was the central part of the story or not. I mean, I think the episode where Will cries to Uncle Phil that why doesn't my dad love me? That episode was amazing. One episode for me was the first episode I ever directed. After Fresh Prince, I became a director, and I was doing sitcoms for many, many years. And to have my first opportunity directing on that show was also very special. So there's hard to really kind of say that there's one moment, but great times throughout.
You must have loved directing.
I love directing.
You control it.
Yeah, I always say that hosting is the director on the floor. You're navigating through all the issues and things that might go on in an episode, but you're directing on the floor.
Last one, Nancy Sands on the Larry King Now blog. Is there still something you want to accomplish in the entertainment business?
More money. But I don't think there's anything specific. People have asked me that question, and I typically say that if it's anything, it's going back to acting and maybe doing roles that are so different from how the audience knows me, and to do something that creatively, sparks some sort of flame in me.
Is there a great piece of theater you'd like to do?
There isn't anything that I have found that that jumps off the page to me right now. But it would have to be something that really just inspires me on the acting side. That would be the only thing that I would say.
Great having you with us, man.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Big thanks to Alfonso Ribeiro, our special guest. Be sure to watch America's Funniest Home Videos Sundays at 7 p.m. on ABC. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at King's Things. And I'll see you next time.